like baby lock, so I did choose the baby lock. Know that my length needs to be, the thing about doing it on the quilting frame, starting, this is where I'm ending. I'm gonna baseline it. Glided right over this fabric. Hi everyone, it's Denise with Wondubar Crafts, and I have been on a June Tailor tote bag kit. I have been making these cute little tote bags, and they are so much fun to do on the domestic sewing machine. But I got a couple patterns to do the insulated tote bag so that I can put some of my groceries when I go to the store or Costco or whatever, and put some cold stuff in them. I do have some, but I really need a few more. So I wanted to see which did better, whether I could actually piece it on the long arm and then quilt it, or would it be easier to do it on my domestic machine. So I've done one already on the quilting machine. I actually pieced it on the long arm, and then I've done one here that was pieced on my domestic sewing machine, and then I'm going to quilt it on the long arm. So some of the pros and cons, and there are a few for either method that you want to, if you want to try and do this, is first of all, when I pieced this one, it took a good part of the day to actually piece it, and because I was doing a lot of leaning over, it is intensive on your back. So if you're someone who has a lot of back aches and pains, it's probably not a good idea to do it on the long arm. But the nice thing is it's already on the lining fabric. But I did find that when I did these totes before on my domestic machine, the lining has all the line. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see all the sew lines. And another issue is if you have a sewing machine that ties off and cuts your thread, you're going to have a lot of these excess little pieces that you're going to have to, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if we can get this a little closer. But you'll have to cut all those pieces off before you actually quilt it, or if you're going to quilt it. And that kind of, you'll have the same thing with the long arm. However, the nice thing with the long arm is I can pull my bobbin thread up and snip it from the top, and the bobbin thread buries into the insulated batting. So you won't have that on the back, but you will get the lines all the way through. So I was like, I'd really like one that, to see what it would look like if it didn't have all those sew lines inside of it. So what I did was I backed this one with just some bleached white muslin, and then I'm going to quilt it so that all you see on the inside and the outside is the quilting pattern that's on it. So I wanted to see which would look better, which one I liked better, so that way if I do decide to do more, I'll know which way I want to do it. Doing it on the domestic, it was very quick. It took me maybe an hour and a half, maybe two, I'll say 2 hours to actually piece it all together. It did take me actually longer to cut my pieces out and do the prep work before I sewed it. So it did take a little bit longer to do that. But, so I thought I'd take you guys along and I'm ready to quilt them now. So let me move my camera over to the front of my tablet screen so that we can set the robotics on it and do some quilting. All right, we are back at the robotics on the tablet. I'll need to set my area, so I backed the camera off a little bit so you can see how I do that. I have a 16-inch throat space because I have a baby lock regalia. When I was looking to purchase my long arm, I didn't want, although it is nice to have a longer throat space, but for me, I'm 5'2", so trying to lean across a large area if I'm freehand quilting is a bit of a nightmare. So we chose I do like baby lock, so I did choose the baby lock regalia. Like I said, it has a 16-inch throat space. We are all set up. I've already done a tension test. I chose this, I don't know if you can see the color, but it is apricot blossom, so it's kind of a pinky peach. It's really, really light colored. It almost gives like an antique peach, pinky color, so that's why I chose it for to quilt with. I also used it when I sewed my pieces together. I just figured it was easier to do it that way. So let's go ahead and set an area. So I'm going to select my area tab here, and I'm going to do a multi-point. So let's see, I want it to come out to about there, and I am extending it past my stitch line because that portion will get cut down, but I like it to kind of I like my quilting to kind of go off a little bit so it looks more natural. It doesn't have gapping or anything like that. So go ahead. I am not going to put the indentation in here. I am just going to bring it all the way across. Let's see, I need it to be about there. And that's about 40, almost 40 and a half. So we're good there. I'm going to bring it all the way down to the end of my throat space and then take it all the way back over again. And I am going to try and line that up. All right, so we're at 40.41. I'm good with that. I do know that my length needs to be, I do believe 24. So I'm going to say 24 1/4. And that will obviously drop. Let's see if you guys can see that. I'll have to zoom that in, but you can see my area is now set. When it does the quilting rows, I will need to stop when I get down to my throat space, drop my needle, and do a drag and drop for it. My other piece over there is not attached down, so I just pinned it so that when I roll it up, it's not going to be a problem. It'll roll up with it, and then when I roll it back to quilt that one over there, it'll be ready to go. I'll just tack it down. All right, so let me get the camera zoomed in a little bit for you guys so you guys can see what I'm doing on the tablet screen. All right, so we're zoomed in a little bit more onto the screen. I think you guys can see that. I hope you can. I had this thing set where it had bigger buttons, but somehow I had an issue with my regulator, and going through the process, we changed out the tablet to see if that was the issue, and it wasn't. But when we did that, we redid all the programming, and it took it back, and I can't remember how to do it. So I'm going to have to do some research on making those tabs a little bigger. Like I said, the nice thing about doing it on the quilting frame is I'm already tacked down, so I don't need to do any tack down stitches or basting stitches or anything. So my area is set. So now I'm ready to go to File and choose a design. So I'm going to go File, Design, Open. And I really want something, let's see, I want to go to my Pro Stitcher designs that were already built in. I want a continuous line because I want to do edge to edge. So let me scroll over here. I think I have one that I really liked. I think this Field of Flowers would be good because it's really not directional in any one way or shape. And it just kind of gives a pretty a meander all the way across. But let's take a look and see if there's anything else that screams at me. I really don't think there is. I think I've been through these before. Let's see. So where is that one? Here we go, Field of Flowers. So I'm gonna select it, hit open. Now that pattern, its width is about 11.6 by 9. So I really want to make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go to modify and I'm going to resize. I want to lock my parameters so it will shrink it both width and height at the same time. So I really kind of want this more like maybe 5.5. So it's a little smaller in the pattern. Actually, I might actually take it to 6. Let's go to 6. All right. So now I want to align it to the top and to the left. So now I see where it's going to start. I'm going to repeat it horizontally. Let's see how many will fit in here. All right, we've got 7. That's good. It comes off the side, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. So now I want to go, ooh, sorry, I kicked the stand, vertical. And how many can we go down? Actually, you know what? I think I want to, no, I'm going to do it that way. All right, so 5, and I still have some space in here. So I don't really want this race tracking in here. So I'm going to shrink it up a little bit. And then let's see what happens when we skew it with a border skew. There we go. Look at that. It looks nice. So there's my quilt pattern already done. I'm ready to go. This is where I'm starting. This is where I'm ending. I'm going to baseline it. I'm going to go over to my Pro Stitcher, and then I'm going to set up to go ahead and start. So let me switch cameras to the camera over on my that shows my quilting foot, and we'll do a run out on this pattern. Okay, so we are ready. I am going to click run on my tablet and then hit proceed. It's going to move to my start point and drop down so that I can pull up my bobbin thread. All right, and then I'm going to hit resume. And it stops so that I can clip my threads, and we're ready to go. I am at the end of my row, so I am going to pull down my top thread so that I can pull up my bobbin thread. Snip away, and I am ready to do my long jump to my next row, the start of my next row. I had to, if you see here, I had to restart here because I ran out of bobbin thread. I forgot that I was recording my bobbin, how much yardage I have in my bobbin, because I'm using an Omni thread instead of my King Tut. So now I'm ready to move on over to my next row here. So let me see if I can move you guys a little bit with it, maybe not get so seasick, hopefully. All right, and since I had to restart, back this up a little bit, I need to go back to my Pro Stitcher, my new start and end. I'm gonna take it, oh, come on. Back up one so that it starts back over here. So we've already completed that. I'm going to start it here. Let's see, can you guys see this? I hope so. All right, and once again, we're just going to hit resume. It's going to take us over where we need to start. Pull up our bobbin thread, hit resume again while I'm holding the bobbin in the top. It's going to stitch about 2 inches. Stop for me to clip my threads, and away we go. So I'll come back when we're ready to do a roll up, to do the drag and drop. All right, now that we're gotten to the end of our second row, I know that I can't get my third row quite in there. It comes a couple inches up. So I'm gonna need to drop my needle and drop the pattern so it rolls up, and I've already set it for the next row. So what I do is I typically try to find one of the lowest points in here. I'm going to drop my needle, and then I'm going to click drag on my Pro Stitcher on the tablet, and then I'm going to release my clamps and roll my quilt up onto the back bar. Let's get it unclipped all the way. And then this way, if you notice on the screen, should be moving the pattern upward. And yes, I do use the red clamper on my quilting, on my quilts. It does make it a little bit quicker. There we go. Let me check my tension here. Typically wanna, sorry, I'm going back and forth. I'm still trying to figure out my, okay, I've got enough play in there. I normally stick my finger down to my knuckle to make sure that I've got it loose enough. I don't want it too tight. I did have it a little bit tighter when I pieced it on the long arm, just so that, but I didn't put it super tight so that it puckered when it released the tension. I did do it a little bit tighter on there. So let's lock this down. Bring this down to about there. Double check again. Yeah, it might be a little bit too tight. So let's see if we can loosen the tension just a smidge on that from the back. Because you don't want it too tight, because otherwise what happens is your when you take it off, if it's too tight, you could end up with tension issues, a lot of thread breaks, that kind of thing. And needle breaks, obviously, that can happen because you can put a lot of stress on your needle, which you don't want happening, because that can knock your timing out. And trust me when I say timing your machine, I have learned a lot about this machine because of the regulator issue that I did have. It was actually a quite easy fix. However, it was it was it was a task, but I did learn to time my machine, even though it is under warranty, and I'll have a professional do it. If it does get knocked out, I do know how to do it, and I bought the tools to do it myself. All right, so we've rolled it up. We're ready to go down. This is already attached, so I don't need to do any side stitching, which I will show you how I did that on the other one. And now I'm just ready to drop. So now I can lift my needle and just pull it over and get my next row started. So you've already seen how that's pretty much starts and everything. So I'm going to get down to the end of this and then take you over to the other quilt when we're ready to do that one and show you how I tack it down and how we're going to do that one versus. Okay guys, so I am done with the quilting on the first one, the one that I actually did on the long arm. And I just kind of wanted to see if you guys could see the quilt pattern that show that it's, hopefully you guys can see it. I did turn off my overhead light because I have a big light bar over the top, and I opened my curtains for some more natural light because it seems to do better when I'm recording. Of course, I haven't recorded in a while, so and I got new cameras, so I'm trying to adjust to this new system. So hopefully this is all going to turn out okay. We'll see, we'll see. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a brief little look-see of what it looks like. Now, the only thing I would suggest is if you're going to use lighter colors, make sure you audition them onto the panel, because I did notice on this lighter white, this white tone on tone, that I can see the number that's underneath there, because this is like a sew by number kind of thing, almost like doing a paper piecing, except for you're using batting. And so I can see it. I don't know if anyone else will be able to really notice it. I mean, it's so minute. But just to make sure you audition your fabrics up against it. I did lay them out, but I really didn't pay that close of attention when I was, you know, how it was going to look coming through the fabric, because I didn't pay that close attention, but I will next time. So let me move on. Let me get my other camera going so you guys can see. I'm going to roll this back down so that we can attach the second one. This one. Okay, so I am just going to take my clamps off here, and then I'm going to loosen the back one. Walk around here. Hopefully I don't knock into you guys. And then roll it back down so that we can start the next one, since that one's already attached. All right, so I want to make sure that I have enough room up here. Okay. Let's see how far down will this go. Okay, so I should be able to quilt all the way up there. All right, so let me lock this back down. Oh, sorry. See, I knocked right into you guys. I got a whole new, like I said, a whole new quilting, or a whole new camera system here. And I am trying to get used to it. Right now I'm using I have a quilt frame, kind of like what you would use for like setting up a picture or something along those lines. You know, and you could put your big quilt on it. So I have that. Tight. So I have it on a handlebar handle system that will, for some reason that's not, okay. All right, so I don't want it too tight. Make sure I have enough space in there. All right, so I'm gonna take out these pins that I used to pin this down with, because I definitely don't want to be rolling over those. That would really stink. You break a needle. I have seen others on YouTube that can sew over those needles. My fear, I would be the one person that would catch that needle and knock my timing out of whack again. And I don't want to do that. So, all right. So what I want to do here is kind of get myself, make sure we're kind of even across the board here. It doesn't have to be perfect because I am going to sew over, but I kind of do want to keep it along a straight path if I can. So I'm going to go ahead and set this, okay, I'm going to put my needle down, set this on a basting stitch. 5 is normally good for me. Sometimes I'll use a 1/4, but I'm just going to tack it down so it doesn't go out of place, because this one is not tacked down like the other one is. Scooch too much. All right, now we can do that. I'll lay my needle down for now. Pull up my bobbin thread and give it a snip. The other end. It's not my way. I did pinch a little bit of the batting up here, but that'll be okay. So, all right. So now I'm going to take it back up to my 12 stitches. And then I'm going to, because this one, when I did this one on the quilt rack, I stitched around the outside here as I went to tack everything down, so it already has the outer border. This one, when I attached it to the white muslin, then it's already tacked down, but I need to tack it down to the actual lining fabric itself. So hold on, let me take a look at my camera here and why the screen is not okay. The screen wasn't showing. I'm still trying to get used to these things. So I'm going to start it down here, and I already have a sew line already there from when I did it on the domestic to tack everything down. And I could use a rule of foot, and I could be straight, but I think I can pretty much do a pretty good job. They're trying to stay within the line. Stitch a little bit. A little bit above, but I'm okay with that because I know placement. With the gears on, it's much easier to do a straight line than it is without the gears. And I'm just back stitching on the corners there. Alright, now I can take off my needle down. I don't want that on when I'm quilting. That would not be good. Alright, so we're gonna do pretty much the same thing here. Alright, I got a creaky spot. My floor isn't quite level back there, and so we've had to do a lot to try and get the frame level on it. So sometimes when I roll over, it creaks a little bit, but it's all good. It sews good, so that's all that really matters, right? All right, so this one, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna set my area. And let's see, I want it over here a little bit, and then we'll take it up. It's gonna be a little bit crooked, I think, but that's okay. Let me take this back and see if we're on the line. Or does it take me to go on the line? Let's go right there. It's a little line crooked, but that's all right. All right, so we are 40 across. On this one, so try and even that one up. And we know we need it to be 24, so I'm going to do 24 1/4. That worked out really well on the other one, right? Now this one, I think I'm going to do a little bit bigger pattern on it. Anne Bright has a really pretty one. It's very similar. It's called Soft and Sweet. It's very, very similar. I don't know if you can see the screen. Probably not. Here, let me stop the camera and I'll move you guys over. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see it. It's very similar to the other one. Has pretty flowers, but it also has little hearts and some leaves in here. So I do want to make this a little bit smaller, so we're going to resize it. It's already locked. It's 13, 12. Okay, so let's do, I want it a little bit bigger than we did before. So let me put it at 8. And then I'm going to align it to my left and to the top. Now I want it to repeat horizontally. Oh, look at that. 5 is perfect in there. So I shouldn't need to crop too much. It is going to take it up over where I did over here, but that's okay because that I just need to make sure that it goes above there. Okay. Okay, so we've got a little space down here. I can either put another one in and then cut the remainder off and then do that. But let's see what happens, how it looks if I skew it. I like that. It's a big enough pattern. It's not wonky. It's not overly, you know. So let me baseline, and then I'm going to go to my Pro Stitcher and I'm ready to run it. So I am going to go ahead, since I've already shown you guys kind of what I did on the other one, I'm going to do this one. I'll stop, I'll start recording again to show you when I roll it up again and attach the remainder of the tote to the liner on the quilt rack. All right, so sorry guys, I forgot to turn the camera back on and show you guys the tack down on the rest of it, but I did get it tacked down. I now have finished quilting. I just kind of wanted to show you guys. Let me turn off my backlight back here and see if you guys can pick up the quilting on this a little better. It's a bigger pattern, and it looks just as nice, I think. So really, no major difference other than the amount of thread that was used. On the first bag, I used about 3 bobbins, and that includes to actually sew down all the pieces. On this one, I only used about 1.5 bobbins. I still got about half a bobbin on here. So, you know, depending on if you're a person that is worried about how much bobbin thread or what have you, really, I don't really see too big of a difference. Of course, the first one was a little bit more dense. So if you did an open pattern like this, you could probably get away with probably 2 bobbins, I would say. So that concludes this video. Okay, so that takes us to the end of this portion of the video. I am going to take these off the quilt rack, and I'm going to finish them up, cut them down, trim them up, give them a finished edge with the serger, and put the straps on, and then I'll come back and show you guys the difference, like on the inside and the outside. So far, I think I really do prefer to do it on the domestic, then bring it over to the quilt frame here and quilt it, just using some lighter muslin in the center for the inner liner, and then put what kind of fabric I want on the back and quilt it this way. Yeah, it might be a little more tedious because I have to load the quilt frame, but if I'm doing, I normally don't just do 1 bag, I'm normally doing a couple of them at a time, so that really will help. So, and by the way, if I didn't mention before, I am using a 108 wide fabric on this, but you could certainly do it shorter, probably a standard 44 inch wide fabric to do that. Just, you know, however you prefer. You could probably get away with a 60 as well, possibly. You'd have to scrunch it in there really good, I think. Probably doing it long ways. So all right, so when I get this done, I'll come back and show you guys the finished product. So it is the next day, and I have completed both of the bags. I've completed the sewing and all the remainder of the instructions. And so now I just want to talk about which I found easier, better to do, whether it was on the long arm or on the domestic, to complete these June Tailor insulated bags. And I will say it's pretty even. To be honest, like I said earlier, there are pros and cons to doing it either method. So this is the bag completed, that, and I'll do a closer, so you close up here in a minute to show you both bags. This is the one that I did on the actual long arm. All right, and then this is the one, oh yeah, this is the one I pieced on the domestic, and then with the additional liner in it, and then backed it with the liner I wanted on the long arm. So really, I asked myself 3 questions. Was which is easier to piece? My opinion, it is, They're both very simple to piece, both on the domestic and the long arm. The pattern is very simplistic and it is a lot of fun to complete. The only drawback I had was the length of time it took me, which was the second portion. How long would it take me? And that's only because of my physical inability, being 5'2" and trying to stretch across a long arm frame to try and piece it. However, it was simple to piece on the long arm, but it was more time consuming. So I would definitely say a check mark for the domestic sewing machine as far as piecing it and how quick it was to do it. Decorating, with the quilting, you could certainly do it on a domestic. You could drop your feed dogs and use your walking foot and do a stimple, or if you're really good at being able to do patterns on your quilt machine, it certainly would be very easy. Or if you have a hooping, like an embroidery system with your domestic, that you could hoop it and do it in segments, you could definitely do it that way. However, I think it came out beautifully on both bags. I was concerned about the placement lines going all the way through on the one for the long arm. However, after getting it all together, it's really not that noticeable. And I kind of like it, actually. So it has its advantages doing it either way. I do, however, like that this is got an extra, the one I did on the domestic, pieced on the domestic and quilted, has an extra piece of lining, and it seems to be a little stiffer than this one, because the only thing that's holding these up is the insulated batting that's in it. And it does come with a small piece of plastic that you can put in the bottom. So, if you have something that builds up condensation, you can certainly do that. And over time it will form. So, but I did like that this just gave just a slight bit more of stability on it. So, give me a second here and I'll zoom in and show you guys what it looks like on the inside. So this here is the bag that I pieced on the long arm. I did a little bit, if you remember, I shrunk the pattern a little bit, and so it is a little more dense. On the inside, let's see if you guys can see this. Let me see if I can take this out. Let's see if we can get some in the light. You really have to look for where all the lines are in between. So it really did come out fairly nice. You really can't tell on that one. Now the other, let me take it out. This is the one I did on the long arm. And as you can see, the pattern is a little less dense on it. And on the inside, the only the lines that you do see is from where you have to place the handles after you take it off the quilting frame to finish it. But other than that, I really can't tell the difference. So I would say they're both advantageous. So overall, they're very easy to do. You will also need a domestic machine anyway to finish it, so I could not see any way that you could sew it together unless you had a sit-down long arm. Then possibly you could probably do it that way, but you are going to need a sewing machine anyway. So why not make it simple and easy, piece it together with the sewing machine and then if you want some additional quilting on it and you think and you have a long arm, certainly do it. I mean, why not, right? I am considering doing some additional ones. I've got some that are just the grocery tote. And I plan on doing a future video here shortly that that does go through it step by step on how to make them. I know that there already are videos out there. However, I did change a few things, especially on this particular insulated bags. Like the inside piece, that little plastic piece, I found on both of these, I had to cut it down about 1/2 inch. And I also realized on the very first tote, the Sophie tote that I ever did, your fabric choices when you're planning it out, there are some things that you may want to look at ahead of time before you do it, that will really enhance the look of the bags. And then some other instructions that were in there that I think there was an easier way to do it, and for like the handles on this. I don't know if these additional shopping bags will be the same, but we'll take a look. And I thought, what a great video to do to show you guys how easy these are. They are, it's almost like doing a paint by number, but you're sewing by the number. So it's just like paper piecing if you've quilted before and ever did paper piecing. The only difference is your paper is your batting, because the pattern is printed onto the batting. So, and I have some other little tips that I've come up with as I was doing this. So, look for that I'm hoping to do I'm hoping to be my next video. And if anyone else, if we get enough comments to want to see how it's done on the long arm, how it's pieced on the long arm, I can certainly do a video for that. So thanks guys for joining me. I'm glad to be back, and look out for those new quilting videos that I'll be putting out now. So plenty of hugs, loves, and blessings. Bye guys.